Okay, so we're going to start almost exactly where we left off, and we're going to just talk about the pen tool today. I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes. As a reminder, Illustrator is a vector-based tool. So what this means is there's no pixels, and it uses a mathematical formula to create the objects that you see. So while I'm going to be using the pen tool to draw over this mushroom, it's not going to look like a photographic or drawn picture. It's always going to have this graphic element. When you're first creating it, you can of course add a lot of different details to get it to a somewhat photorealistic object. But it's always going to have that illustration quality. That is the point of it. If you want to make something photorealistic, you would go into Photoshop and do that there. Okay, so I'm going to start by saving it because I can see that it hasn't been saved yet. I have this star next to the .ai right here. File save or Control or Command S. I'm going to zoom in, Command plus. Okay. So I'm in layer 1. Just so you know, if you don't see this, that's because this arrow is turned to the right. So you can actually click on that and open it. At this point, I could create a new layer, and I think I will do that. I've already locked my mushroom picture, so it can't be moved. So I'm just going to unlock it, close this layer, and lock everything up for now. That way nothing on that layer can be moved, not even this element. And then in my new layer, I'm actually going to rename this by double-clicking into it and say mushroom. Okay. So now because I'm clicked on this, I can start making, everything I make on the board is going to populate into this layer. If I was clicked on this layer, I would have a really hard time making things. See, it's not letting me even draw a rectangle because I'm selected on a locked layer. Okay, where if I'm selected on that layer, that happens. Also notice that the line now is red, highlighting which layer it's in. And in my previous sketches, the outline was blue. Delete that. I'm gonna go back to this selection tool. So I always do that when in between different tools. You could change directly, but I like to go back to the move tool. You can also press V. So if I'm in T, all you have to do is press V. To get it back to the move tool. Okay, so what we're gonna focus on today is the pen tool. So here I can click on that. And just so you're aware, if you click into it, it shows you options. You have pen tool, add anchor point tool, delete anchor point tool, anchor point tool. These I'll use a little bit, but mostly I'm gonna use this original pen tool option, just this P option, and then I'll move between selection tool, direct selection tool, and pen tool. Okay, so just so you know, if I'm just creating anything, say I want to just experiment with it, I'm just gonna click and drag. So what I did there, I'm gonna repeat that because I did it before I said it. So you can make any shape with the pen tool. And how it works is every time you click, the pen tool creates an anchor. And then you'll see if you move it, I'm not clicking on anything. I've released the mouse and I'm just moving it. It creates a line. So I can click again and create an anchor point. Okay, now I'm going to go to my move tool and I've created a line with the pen tool. That's great. So I'm going to choose the pen tool again, and this time I'm going to click and drag. So that means I'm holding the left clicker down on my mouse and I'm pulling it. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit big, but not so big that I lose it off the screen. So now I have an anchor point, and then I have these two curve controllers. And so as you can see, what I mean by curve controller is that it actually determines what the angle and arc, really the arc of my curve. So, you know, you could just freehand and create something that doesn't look that nice, right? And at this point, I could add anchor points. Oops. You have to add it on to the path. And I could delete anchor points. So click on the anchor, delete. can also use this change anchor point tool, which helps me move it all at once, or I could just click on it once and it creates a hard edge, or click and drag and it creates that soft curve again. Okay, so I'm going to delete this, and now I'm going to do a really specific task, which is to use the pen tool to draw this entire mushroom. And then I'm going to bring the mushroom into the pattern that I previously made and show you, let's say I spent 40 minutes on this. So like a 30-minute version of what a pattern, an image can look like. And then you will have, weeks to do this. So I'm really excited to see what you all put together. So I will say, so I'm pressing Command plus, which is why it's bouncing all over. And then I'm holding space and moving onto the area that I want to look at. I'm going to do it one more time. It's zooming into that because it's selected. So I'm actually going to deselect that, move it here one more time, and show you that if I zoom in now, it's not jumping all over. Okay, so the pen tool does take some time to get used to. However, Illustrator has progressed a lot and in the last few years. And so when the pen tool used to be really hard, now it kind of helps you. So it understands the outline of an image, which is really neat. So I'm going to start my drawing here on this side of the mushroom and go around. So here I'm going to click and drag about there. And then I'm going to bring my pen tool, right? I'm not holding anymore, I released. And I want to grab like this curve, it's small, so I'm just going to click and drag here. I'm going to hit delete. I don't think that was very good, so I'm going to start over. Okay, there, click and drag. You can see that this is sort of trying to find that edge for me, which is very cool. In some ways it doesn't have to be perfect. And this is great too. It's showing me that, as I go longer, I'm not going to get that curve here. So I'm actually going to click and drag to get this big hill here. I'm going to do one right in the center of it. I'm going to Control Z. That one was a little too close. So I'm going to go here, click and drag. So this is, partly because I have practice doing this, but it's also, I'm just sort of following the lines and trying to see where Illustrator is recommending that I put it, really, So, but something to keep in mind if Illustrator isn't doing a good job of this, I put an anchor point here. And so now I know that I want to put it around this curve, but if I put a point right on the curve, sometimes it comes out a little bit crooked. So I'm going to go right over it and then pull and try to like grab that curve. So if this white is bothering you for any reason, you can click that. And so I clicked on this white box with the arrow and then it got rid of the fill, right? I have the stroke. I could do the same thing with the stroke, but I prefer looking at the stroke. So I'm going to add black back to it. Oops, I'm going to switch them with the fill. And now I have the stroke again. Okay. Okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit now for the sake of time, but I'm continuing that same thing. At this point, I'm going to go all the way around because I'm going to create this. I'm going to create it from the back going forward. So I'm going to create this middle section next and then the stem. So it doesn't bother me that I'm going over the stem because the stem is going to be covering the object later. And so something to make note of is that I'm splitting it into 3 parts, 3 components. I'm not trying to make the whole thing all at once. And that's because I want to add specific colors to them. And it is easier if I, do that all at once. Or sorry, so in 3 separate things rather than trying to like organize it by space, but you could try that too, right? So at this point, I'm going to go to the gradient tool and I'm going to add this gradient. Okay, this is good. I'm going to get rid of the stroke now. I'm going to go back to the gradient. And at this point, I want to see what's going on behind it. So I'm going to zoom out, Command minus, and I'm going to click on my selection tool and hit Shift right arrow it just moved to points. I'm gonna click out of it, click onto it. I'm going to move it over a little bit and down. And you can click and drag this too, but I wanna be able to see it, what's behind it. Okay, so I'm gonna be repeating some of the stuff I did last time. So with this gradient tool, I'm gonna click edit gradient. So I have 1 point. So I know it gets a little darker here, darker, darker. So I'm just imagining the color right now, lighter, lighter, medium, lighter, medium. Okay, so now I want to start adding the specific color. So I'm gonna click on this middle point, click on the eyedropper, and then click on the dark part here. I'm gonna do the same thing here, here. Here it gets a little lighter, so I'm gonna go there. And you could, get really specific with this and add a lot of dots to try and like repeat this pattern, right? I'm not going to get that specific, but just so you know, this is how you put it together. And if you want to add more dots, you can click off this eyedropper tool and then, add a few more. Eyedropper. I think it's a little darker over here and here. Okay, I actually think there should be one more here to create this like lighter edge. I'm gonna hit the eyedropper and then click on the lighter edge. Okay. So that's great. So I'm gonna do that, put that all the way back here for now. And then you can see in my new layer, where I opened it up, I have 2 paths, which are the lines I created over here. And I have mushroom cap. So for now, I'm gonna hide this so that I can work on this area. So I hit it by clicking on that eye. Okay, so same idea here. I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna go through this fairly quickly, again, for the sake of time. But it's the same idea. Clicking and dragging. So obviously mine's very imperfect. If I was to do this for a project or a school project or a professional project, I would take probably 3 to 4 times the time. But again, that wouldn't be very fun to watch. Okay, so at this point, I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna click V, I'm gonna click out of it and then into it, just to make sure it's not selected on one point. Then I'm gonna choose the gradient tool. Remember that if you don't see it, it's here. And if it's still not there, you can go to Window, Gradient, and that'll appear. I have a check mark, which means it's showing. So I'm gonna start adding these dots. There's not as many variations in color. So I'm gonna just start with these points. Click on the eyedropper tool. I'm gonna select this one and go light. Here I'm gonna go a little bit more medium, dark here as well, dark for this area, and then light. And then I can see that I probably need one more for this like shadowy area. So I'm gonna do that. Okay, and now I'm gonna return it to its spot. Now I can start to preview, like if I bring that mushroom cap back, then I have this already started, right? So it's getting there. And now I'm going to do the stem. So I'm hiding both the mushroom cap and the middle section. So I'm gonna ignore the dirt on the stem so that I can just get the shape. I don't wanna go into that detail. That could be another element, as well as adding all these little lines. That could be another element that you add later on. But for now, I'm just going to add what I see here. So I'm going to, as far as like what I see in the outline. Click and drag for that nice big curve. I'm going to imagine the ending here and have it start up there. I'm going to hit Control Z. I'm going to make one more middle point around that curve so I can not create a large curve there. Otherwise, that would really mess up how I begin my side. So I'll show you what that looks like. If I go here and I try to make that curve, and then I want to start making this sharp curve, you can see that it's almost impossible to do that. I could go to the direct selection tool and start to bring just the one side down. Yeah, that's not bad. I could do that. I went a little too far though. I could bring it in, or you could do it the opposite way. Okay. At this point, I've actually broken my anchor point, and this might get frustrating if you've been working on it for a while. So you're like, uh-oh, what do I do? You can actually go to the pen tool, and if you start clicking, you can see it's not connected. So I'm going to delete that by pressing delete, and I'm actually going to click back onto the anchor point, and now we're back and connected. Although this is a hard edge, so once we're done creating the shape, I'm going to go back and refine that. Okay, so at this point, I need to get this area, and I can't see what's going on. So I'm going to click on this no view, zoom in a little bit. Oops, that again. Oh, I want to go back too, so okay. Then click on no color, no fill. Okay, again, I'm not doing this very carefully. I'm just trying to get some of these edges. Okay, so at this point, I will create this gradient fill. Oh, and this point, before I do that, this point is quite, click on it, my selection tool is very pointy. So when I click on it, it shows me this blue target, right? And if I pull it, it softens that edge. So I'm gonna pull it there. And now I've deleted that one anchor point. They've created two because I clicked and pulled on this circle. Okay, now I'm gonna create the gradient and oops, I'm gonna make sure that's selected. Click on the gradient. So I have to add a color in first. I'm gonna put white and then click on the gradient, and it gives me like automatic circles. So I'm gonna click on the selection tool, move it over, go back to the gradient tool, click on edit gradient. And at this point, I know I want it light here, dark here, medium dark, dark, medium dark, dark, light, medium, right? I'm looking at this shape, medium, light. And I'll put dark at the bottom, medium, light. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to use eyedropper again. Try to find these really light areas, medium, a little darker, darker, medium. I'm not going to go all the way there. I'm going to use one of these actually. And I'm going to do the same thing for that because I think that's too dark. That is a dark color. That's not what the stem would look like. And I'm imagining what the stem would look like. So that's going to be like a medium. It's pretty close. I think it should be lighter than that. Okay. And just so you know, it's taking a very specific point. So if I'm in this darker area, but I click on a light vein here, then it's going to show me that. So here too, I can click in the middle of these dark spots. It's going to give me a medium, but I want a darker one. So I can click on it. I can zoom in to get more specific, but I think that worked a little too light. Okay. This needs to be way lighter. Okay. I'm gonna move these around, so I'm just clicking and dragging. Don't forget, you can also make the circles wider. I think that could benefit me here. Oh yeah, that looks great. Let's see. It kind of blends the colors a little bit more too. Oops. Click and drag, okay. All right, so now I'm gonna put this back onto the shape as best as I can. I think that's pretty close. And then I'm gonna reveal the two backgrounds. So I'm gonna zoom out. I'm gonna unlock the layer underneath it so I can move this out of the way, delete these. So I clicked and dragged, select them, delete. So you can see that now if I try to move this, it selects this image too. I don't want that. So I'm going to open layer one, lock this mushroom image. So lock that background image, click and drag to select these three items. I'm going to go to object, group. That way now they're all one group. So when I click one of them, they're all attached and move it out. And I'm pretty pleased with that mushroom. So I'm gonna go ahead and use it in my drawing. So again, I made a simple shape drawing and I've used the pen tool. You might choose to do all kinds of different things with lines and, you know, get really specific. You might do the whole thing with the pen tool. It's really up to you. So now I'm just going to try and make something work with, you know, a short amount of time. So I would click and drag and I could bring this in. So I kind of like that placed in the middle there. I think I will delete one of these and this one. And then what I'm going to do is create a pattern. So I'm going to Control C, Control V. That's what I did. Sorry, sometimes my fingers move faster than my mouth. So Control C, Control V. And then I'm going to click and drag to move it. I'm going to go to this edge and watch until it turns from that selection tool, right? The black arrow to the, not the curve, but rather the double arrow. So once I see that, I can click and drag. I'm going to hold Shift while I'm dragging to change the size. And I'm going to let go of my mouse before I let go of Shift. So let go of the mouse, then let go of Shift. And you can change the size of that. Control C, Control V, duplicate it again, repeat that action. Yeah, so that's good for now. And then I'm going to play again with the transparency. So that's, you know, this tool. So I think that's kind of cool. It takes on the color properties, which is sort of what my idea was, I suppose, was to play with the color overlays. I think I want to leave this one normal because I worked on the colors so much, but I really like how that came out. So maybe I can even get more specific in my drawing. I know I don't like, I'm going to move this to the back. So I did Control Shift left arrow or Command Shift left arrow or Object. We can also do Object Arrange. Where's that? Here it is at the top. Arrange, send backwards or send to back. So I did send to back. C, Shift, Control. If you have a Mac, it's Shift Command. Okay, I'm also going to delete the stroke here. And I think I'm going to delete these equal signs. And bring this into that area. Okay, so that would be my, you know, let's see, 30-minute pattern. And then I would, next class, we're going to go over how to bring this into Photoshop, how to export it, bring it into Photoshop, and apply it to real-life context.